Hey, welcome everybody. It's time for our weekly conversation we call Meet Our Community. It's the Hispanic business community here in Orange County. Powered by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California with the man who is always streaming himself. I don't know what that means, but John Gutierrez.
Check. 1, 2, 3.
That's right.
Here we are again, folks. Welcome to our community podcast show powered by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. I'm your host, Senior Vice President here at the Chamber, John Gutierrez. And of course, we have another great guest with us. As you all know, here at the Chamber, we're all about supporting and helping our business owners in the community. And today we have with us Christopher Rivera, who is the owner, winemaker of SEIS Soles Wine Company. SEIS Soles is the sixth son, represents the growth of our generation's culture and values. Welcome, Chris, to the show.
Thank you very much, John. Thank you so much.
Well, let's start off, Chris. I know we always talk before the show. We really want to share your story as far as tell us a little bit about you and your family, because I know it has a lot to do, obviously, with the wine. And as everybody can see here on the show, if you're not watching the show, if you're just listening to us, we have all the 5 wines here with us. We have 5 wines, right?
Correct.
And we'll go into, of course, these delicious wines, which, by the way, we've tried. I've tried. My family's tried. My wife has tried them. Our people from our events have tried them, and they're just delicious wines. But let's go a little bit into you, Chris, and how you end up in this industry, and of course, tell us a little bit about your family and yourself.
Sure. My path to wine is very unconventional, but it really starts with my parents being from Michoacan, Mexico. My mom.
Wait. You said Michoacan, Mexico.
Yeah.
By the way, that's not Michigan, Paul Roberts, because I know you're from Michigan. But when I was in college, I would tell people, when they would say, "Where are you from?" Because my mom's from Michoacan.
Yeah.
I would be like, "I'm from Michigan."
Yeah.
And they would be like, "Really? You're from Michigan?" I'm like, "Well, no, not really. It's called Michoacan."
The Mexican Michigan, right?
So we're paisanos.
That's right. More carnitas than anything there. But it's interesting that, like a lot of people from that area immigrated to California, started working. They became naturalized citizens. So it's a dynamic that's I grew up with. I grew up teaching them answers to for their citizenship test and everything.
Really?
And but they're very much have been hardworking all their lives, but they always have worked in like labor. My dad had always worked in almond orchards. He was always like the head guy's right hand man, So I grew up in a really interesting area where Mexican parents, and then really agricultural. But for the most part, what I saw is that we were all laborers, and my mom would make work in tomato plants. So that, as I grew up, just kind of what it was instilled in me was like a work ethic and being on time and being a man of your word.
Which is hard work, right?
Sure, it is. And you don't really come to appreciate what that will do for you eventually. Just being a good person in general, how that will pay dividends down the road. My dad was just kind of a hard-nosed Mexican dude. He's funny, but and my mom was kind of like head in the sky, kind of always dreaming about things, and very intelligent and very nurturing. So I got the best of both worlds, and no one in my family is in the wine industry. We have no connection to it, except that, eventually when I was in college, my first foray into wine was 2-buck chuck, and we'd buy $24 worth of wine and pour it all over our faces and, and pretend we were students. And but not till later on.
But that was your first time experiencing drinking wine?
Even tasting it, in college.
In college?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, because growing up, vino to us was like maybe like a brandy or
Yes.
a liquor.
Yes.
So I never knew vino. And then in high school, obviously, I saw it, but we weren't drinking that, but I knew of it.
The only vino I knew growing up was the one they would give us at church.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
The Sacramento, yeah.
Yes, I would watch the priest, y el vino, y el pan, and
Yeah.
and we'd be like, what is that, right? Because you're right. In the Mexican community, we didn't really drink wine, right? It was more like you said,
Yeah.
brandy, right? And things like that, or tequila, right?
Sure. Maybe there was a little bit of rum or anything would come through, but I never got the hostia. I guess I was always sitting too much, so I never got to go. And but I got an appreciation after it, just because I wanted to become a physical therapist. I went to school for that, and then you got to get your doctorate to become a physical therapist.
A PT.
Yeah, so I took an entry-level job at a winery in town, a small little winery if people have heard of it, called E&J Gallo.
Yes. Big
based,
company.
based out of Modesto. That's right. Huge, biggest wine company in the world, I think.
Is that what it is?
Yeah,
It's the biggest one in the world.
Yeah, it's the biggest in the world.
Wow.
If not at least the biggest family-owned.
Ernest and Gallo, right? Is that the name
Ernest
of
and Julio
it?
Gallo.
And Gallo. Okay.
Yeah, and so now it's like their third, fourth generations of like children that have taken over. It's an amazing company. I worked there for a long time.
So you learned a lot there.
Yeah, and I'm not paying like lip service to them. It's just my love for what they were doing started when I was a kid and I was in the arts, and we would go and try to raise money and perform and try to pump money into the arts that was always being cut. Art, there's a big art installation there in Modesto. There's a big theater. All part of the Gallo family had been part of that, right? So when I was at Gallo, what I learned was just a lot of interesting things when it comes to like being able to execute work timely. So I didn't learn winemaking there, but I learned a lot of skills when it came to be a good laborer and making sure that a big projects can be happening individually. So right there I was compartmentalized. I learned a couple things, but really I was just adding what they told me to something they told me to add it to. I didn't know anything, but it piqued my interest. And so I decided to think that wine might be something I'm interested in. So I was gaining the management track there. I was moving up quick. They're like, hey, you should be a supervisor. You should be this. You should be that. And I thought, well, is that what I want to do? Or do I want to see what wine can do for me? So I went over to Lodi. I took an entry-level job at a small winery and worked my way up. And while I was working there, went to Davis and did the winemaking program. And so while I'm making wine and working with people, I worked up from being just dragging hoses to seasonal worker to full-time lab assistant winemaker. And now I own my own brand.
There's a lot to this whole world of wine.
Right.
I think there's different layers that people don't see of, I guess you could say, from an operation standpoint. Because
Right.
you just mentioned a lot of different layers.
Sure.
People just, they go to a restaurant, they see the wine, right? They open a bottle and they enjoy it. But they don't realize how much goes into putting this product together.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like that bottle you just touched is a 2019 blend of 4 different vineyards. So those 4 different vineyards at some point have been planted and grown, and every year they're taken care of. That means people have to physically go out there and manicure the vines and add different things at certain times of the year. So it's a huge amount of work that goes into this before you even pick the grapes, right? Picking the grapes is something people can picture in their mind, and that's a big show. But all the work that comes into just kind of nurturing these vines and grapes all the way to the point that you pick it at the exact moment that you want to, that's a whole thing. And let alone you have to take it from there and then ferment and process and age and bottle. So, I mean, when I pour these wines, sometimes people are like, oh, what do you got? They'll see me 2 months later, like, what's new? I'm like, man, some of these wines take 3, 4, 5 years to produce. And having it in your hands, like I can't have a new bottle every 2 months,
Wow.
But it is that layered, and I think a lot of people can understand that when it comes to other industries. Wine, we always romanticize just the end part of it, that we don't ever think about like, dang, how long far down the road did this have to start?
Let's talk about SEIS Soles, which is, of course, your brand, your product that you started.
Right.
Correct?
Correct.
I got to tell you, this one here, I love the face of it. I
Yeah.
just love the way it looks. Let's share with everybody. Let's share with them the logo, the story behind it. Can you share a little bit of the history of
Yeah.
why you named it SEIS Soles? I
Yeah.
know the history, but I'd
Right.
love to share with everybody else.
No, of course. It's interesting because like several years ago when I was working in wineries, I remember thinking like, okay, this is my track. I'm gonna be a winemaker and I'll do it for people. I never wanted to start my own brand, but what the impetus for it was that I went out with a group of other folks that I've known in the industry, or just guys that were laborers with me, that we were on Mexicanos and we go wine tasting, and you would get a certain different experience. They would be kind of dismissive. Folks wouldn't like answer your questions. They'd assume you like certain wines. And I thought that's weird because, I don't walk into anywhere and ever say like, I'm a winemaker, I work this and that. So I thought, well, if Latinos are not having a great experience just for these subtle little instances, why would they bring their friends and family? So maybe there's a need for a Latino brand, right? And so that's what SEIS Soles started with. I started with the idea that I wanted to make wine that is flavored and crafted for Latino palate. And especially that means because a lot of Latinos are new to wine drinking. Now here in Orange County, that's not always the case, but in other areas, people are very new. Mm-hmm. So I decided to make that, and I thought, well, what are we going to name it? That's really important, and what is it going to look like? That's even the most important, really. And so workshopping some names around with a bunch of people, the idea of, as a Chicano, I always liked Aztec imagery, pre-Columbian imagery, and So SEIS SOLES translates to six suns, like the suns in the sky. So it plays off the Aztec creation myth, where they thought they were the chosen people of the fifth sun god, and now my interpretation is us as descendants. Now the next generation, in a sense, live under the sixth sun. And now we're interpreting what that means to us. I mean, here in Orange County is probably the biggest definition of what I see is that we're growing in political power, purchasing power. We're a big part of the community. We influence the community, and I wanted to celebrate that in my own way, and the wine is that way.
Well, I love you said community there maybe 4 or 5 times, which obviously our show is our community podcast show powered by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And one of the things that I love that you're doing, and we're going to get into the wines more here shortly, but one of the things that I love and I wanted to have you on the show, one is because you're a young entrepreneur, right? You're a new business that is trying to grow. And I see you everywhere. I mean, you're at events across the state, right? You're up north and middle California and south, and you're on the road. You're pounding the pavement. You're trying to build a brand, right?
Yeah.
That says a lot about you, man. You're driven. And that says, what is that like for you? I mean, being on the road, bringing the brand, it's tough as an entrepreneur.
It is, and I think I'm learning, and what I knew, I always knew it was going to be like I was going to take my lumps and learn stuff, but if I just try to stay back in Lodi and hope that people would feed me information, the right answers, I found that wasn't the way to go, and it wasn't really going to come. I just knew that I had to throw myself out there and figure it out on my own, right? So in Northern California, big wine regions, if you ask them, how do you figure out LA? How do you figure out Southern California? Really, at that point, you just got to go figure out for yourself. So all I know is how to do this kind of thing. I'm naturally just driven to be like more of a laborer. I'm a grunt force worker. I can carry stuff, and so I'm taking those kind of aspects and applying it to what I think I can do now. I'm learning where there are ways I could have been way smarter about this, and other way. And that's awesome that okay, I can implement that and then maybe pass it down to the next generation that's gonna try to come up, because those answers weren't there for me, but I'm gonna have it for other folks,
Well, but by the fact that you're out there and that you're knocking on doors, right, and you're going to restaurants or businesses, that's how I met you.
Yeah.
I met you at Villa Roma, who's one of our members of our chamber, right? Teresa and Leo, and Daniel there, who runs the restaurant with Teresa and Leo. And Daniel said to me, I got this great wine. You got to meet them and you got to try them out. And that's how I honestly, I appreciated the fact that you were out hustling and presenting the brand. And so kudos to you. And I know that you've been involved in a lot of our fundraisers with Northgate, Chalk Hospital. I mean, you're always out there trying to also give back and support the community, which, by the way, thank you so much for doing that.
No, and you know what? Thank you for the opportunities, because I think what I'm doing is latching the people that have a lot of energy and a lot of drive and focus, because I think I have energy and drive. I don't necessarily have focus right now. So when I see people like you that are so heavily invested in their communities and doing things, I'm like, I can support that. I wouldn't be able to tell you if you tell me, hey, Chris, how do you best want to support these local communities? I'm like, you know what? I just got to find who's doing work, and I'm going to support them, So I appreciate people like you and other folks I've met. I just want to shout out for Johnny Garcia up in the Central Valley Hispanic Chamber.
Nice.
Another amazing guy that's just completely selfless. You guys are so similar to me in that, you can tell you're doing this because you care. And I like those kind of people, and so I like to put myself in their circle, in their ambiance,
But that's good. I think it's important that anybody's listening or watching that you understand that, it's not just, hey, there's a bottle of wine there, and that's it. No, there's a story behind this. There's a history behind this. Your parents grew up working really hard in the labor world. You learned how to work hard in that labor world. Now you've taken those roots, and now you've started your own brand, your own business, right? And I think it's important that people watching or just listening to us, SEIS Soles is a wine we need to go out and support, because it's part of our community. You're always giving back. And let's just really briefly, can you share, because I know about wine because I've been around it my whole life.
Sure.
Let's share with people listening that maybe have never tasted wine or know about wine.
Yeah.
The differences between every bottle, right? So go ahead.
Yeah, so the way I like to present it usually is because, once again, the focus of SEIS Soles is bringing a lot of new wine drinkers to the community, specifically Latinos, but everybody, right? So when you first start out drinking something, do you like the most sophisticated version of it, or do you like something that's really palatable and easy to drink? That's my whole focus. So the first wine is a rosé of Grenache and Mourvedre. So traditional rosé grapes, and I do all the kind of traditional fermenting, but I just stopped the fermentation a little short. So there's some residual sugar, and that makes it soft, really approachable, and that's for the folks that are getting into wine. And then there's like one brand out there that I won't name, but that like does speak to Latinos. And I think they've done a good job of getting that market.
Yes.
But I'm trying to give a version to those Latinos. It's like, look, this is a traditional version made by a Mexicano. If you are into that, this is what's available, right?
And rosé is very popular in the summertime, if I'm correct, right? Like,
Yeah,
people love rosé, right?
And there's so many different versions of rosé. All these wines are kind of like popular at different times for different folks.
Yes.
But really palatable. So if you have folks in your family that are wine curious but don't really have had maybe a bitter experience, this is where I start with, right? But then for folks that want a little drier experience because they've been drinking wine for a while, I have a white blend, Grenache Blanc and Albarino. Not traditionally blended together. Those two grapes originate in different countries. But here I had a lot of fun with it because it creates a really fruit-forward experience with some medium acid. So for the folks that like a little more of a serious wine, then we start edging that way, right?
Is that similar to a Chardonnay or a little bit more like a Sauvignon Blanc?
It would be like those two grapes if they hadn't touched any oak. So like a fruit-forward Sauvignon Blanc, a fruit-forward Chardonnay that hasn't touched any oak. So it's very much a California fruit-driven wine as opposed to maybe like a Sauvignon Blanc in New Zealand that's grassy or lemongrass, all that. So it has a very unique flavors. But yeah, it could be like those grapes that were grown in California that haven't touched any oak.
And for those of you not watching the show but listening to the show, those first two wines are white wines that we just talked about. The rosé and then the other one that's a blend, right?
Yeah, and those are made in a similar way in the fact that we're hand picking these grapes because we want really delicate flavors, and then we process them that way. So the point that I extract the juice at the very last moment and don't press too hard so that they get really floral, fruity components, but there's not like a bitterness to it. And then as opposed to the reds, when we start getting to where we want to extract a lot of those flavors, right? So the next one, as people learn with the brand. So you can either enter at different levels here, or if you grow with SEIS Soles, you start with rosé, maybe you start moving to something drier, then you're ready for a red. The first red I have is Syrah and Cabernet.
Syrah.
Yeah, it's a blend of Syrah and Cabernet. I like to make blends because they give me a lot of freedom to just kind of make whatever style that I'm going for, as opposed to, because a lot of Latinos and actually a lot of people in general don't know grape varieties, but they want to be able to say something. So everyone comes up and says, I like Cab and Pinot.
Yes.
So do people always really like that, or is that just the most common and we just want to feel like we're part of the club and we know what we're talking about?
It's just most marketable or something, I guess. It's
part of it,
easier
yeah. And then so I tell people, hey man, we're gonna avoid worrying about exactly the name of the grapes on the front. I'm gonna tell you what the grapes are because I want you to learn what you do and don't like. So the Syrah and Cabernet, I point out that the Syrah is actually more of like earth-driven mushroom, but a lot of mid-body, and then the Cabernet has a good base. It's drier, but it has a lot of fruit on there. And so when I put those two together, those two components start coming through, and people are like, aha, I get you. I think I'm tasting the Syrah on this one component. I'm tasting the Cab in this component. And that's what SEIS Soles is about, that aha moment where you're like, I get what you're saying. So I'm very much trying to use this as a vehicle to like educate people on what it could be, because like everybody's like, well, I like cabs. Well, if you take a cab from Northern Coast or Central Valley to Temecula, those are going to be completely different wines. Like, why do you pigeonhole yourself to one grape?
And for people listening, when he said, I took a cab from so-and-so to so-and-so, he's not talking about a vehicle. We're talking about a Cabernet. Because remember, not everybody knows the word cab from a Cabernet.
Thank you for pointing that out, 100%.
You're a wine talker, so that easily comes to you.
100%.
People are like, what do you mean he took a wine?
Why not an Uber or Fly?
He took a cab vehicle from one into Cabernets is a very popular, right?
A Cabernet Sauvignon.
Sauvignon, exactly, right?
So that's the idea behind it, is that like we're not going to take it too seriously, but I am going to tell you exactly what I did so that you can have fun and grow with this. And then when you learn SEIS Soles, you can learn some of these things. You can go to different regions, different wines, and know what to ask for, or know that what you do or don't like. That's what I hate when people come up like, oh, I don't like sweet wines, yet they drink my sweetest wine. And it's like, man, get over yourself. Like, just have fun and taste everything. People come up, I don't drink white wines. Like, that's silly. How do you not drink an entire category of something if you enjoy wine? Like, I think it really points out that wine has always been like for others and kind of a class thing, and so people want to show like, oh, I'm so sophisticated that I hate an entire category. And I thought that seems silly to me, but I think the wine industry ourselves are the ones that did it. So it's up to us to kind of fix it and maybe bring it back to a little more level-headed area. And that's what SEIS Soles is, right? So these are the more fun, and as they come over, this is priced at $23, the red blend. Okay. So that's for like, your friends come over on Thursday night randomly and you want to open it up, you're going to do some pasta, carnita asada, or whatever. Like, you can open up a $23 bottle, everyone's going to be happy, and you're not breaking the bank, right?
Nice.
But if you want something a little more for like a more special occasion, we have next a Cabernet Sauvignon. I did finally make a 100% Cabernet Sauvignon. It's called the Gran Reserva. And it's what I think a cab should be. It has some dryness to it. There's some tannins on the back end. But it is very much a California cab, a Lodi cab, where it's a lot of fruit on the front because people, I think, enjoy rich fruit tones. As opposed to vegetal, which you might get on the coast. Sometimes cabs taste like bell pepper, serrano, all that. That's all common, except if you come from like a really warm area like Lodi. Fruit forward, but a good structured and good solid tannins on the back end. So for folks that are looking for like a drier wine, that's the one that you drink out of my lineup.
And what is ballpark this bottle?
That was 35 retail.
35.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because you go from a certain price up to the higher ends, right?
Yeah, and
you have a whole portfolio.
Yeah, no, a big part of it is that I want people at different times of their lives or whatever, or experiences, or the week, to have different options. I like to entertain, so if friends come over, I first start with a rosé or white. I have two options for depending people, and then as we progress, and then into dinner, and then to dessert, I'm bringing out different wines, and that's why I wanted SEIS SOLES to be like. You can have an entire evening hosted where SEIS SOLES provided every experience, and pretty soon I'm gonna have a sparkling, so I'm hoping to have that too, right? But then the very last wine is Soltera, which is what I think the top wine should taste like. It's a very kind of integrated, mature. So where the cab is dry, this is meant to be even smoother. I take my cues from like an añejo tequila. When you take it, it actually has a darker color. It's smoother. It's fatter. It doesn't necessarily have to be harsher. It actually is better, and I think it's more well made when it's less harsh. So this is a very kind of viscous, full-bodied red that doesn't have a lot of dryness to it. It's Cab, Petit Syrah, Petit Verdot, and Merlot. And if you know those grapes, you know that some of those grapes can be very tannicky. So that's why it took me 26 months of aging on brand new oak for that oxygen integration.
A lot of work goes into this
100%. Yeah.
Wow, this is the big dog.
That's a big dog.
This is for my wife. If she's listening, honey, I got a bottle for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Paul, you ain't taking this one, Paul. All right, Paul, this is mine.
All I want to know is when do we start drinking?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, this is a family show, Paul. I don't know if the chamber allows us to start drinking.
Come on.
Paul over here wants to start like chugging,
Full disclosure, we haven't had anything. We've talked about it a lot, though. Yeah.
I do have a question, though, because I hate to admit it, I'm kind of knowledgeable about wine, a little dangerous here. My wife worked at a winery. I had a restaurant for a number of years. And so there are so many regions in California. They all have a different taste because the terroir, the dirt, the soil brings out something different in every wine. Hard to believe, but the wines you're talking about, Lodi, inland, taste different than the wines that are grown.
Paul, where's the question, Paul?
I'm just showing off here. I'm just showing off.
He's just trying to show off he knows wine.
Well done.
He's like, he's like Mr. Wonderful on the Shark Tank.
We're going to have to come back and finish that conversation.
Yes.
So the question is, where do you get your wines from? Where do you get? Because you're not growing the grapes. You're buying them from someplace. So where do you source them all different places, or do you have a certain style, certain region you buy your wines from?
So I cut my teeth in winemaking, and I've spent 10, 12 years working at a family-owned winery called Clinker Brick. Shout out to Clinker Brick in Lodi.
Hey, shout out to them.
Amazing family,
Nice.
big winery. They're everywhere. I can't say enough good things about them. So that's where I cut my teeth, and so I make all Lodi fruit. All wine from Lodi fruit. So
Okay.
if you go along the 99 corridor, you hit McComie River, which is Lodi proper. There's 7 sub-appellations. One of them is called McComie River, and that's where I sourced all my fruit from. Those are farmers that I've been working with for 10 years.
Hey,
that I'm like,
shout out to all those hard-working farmers too.
That's right.
Right, shout out to them
Because
because
where
if
did
not,
you
we
go, John,
wouldn't
to
be
school? We went to somewhere up in the north there, Cal State. What? To Chino?
Oh, Chico. I went up
Chico.
to Chico State, but a lot of our friends are from Modesto and Stockton. In fact, John Amador, chairman of our board, former chairman of our board, he's always in that area. So I know that whole Bakersfield up in that area is like a lot of farmland, right? A lot of farm work
And then
there.
Lodi is 45 minutes south of Sacramento, so it's a huge stretch of land, and we're on the northern tip of it.
Okay.
And so we grow grapes there, and I make all my wines from there. So yeah, shout out to the farmers and what we call now vineyard stewards, which is all the people that you see out there. They're working their ass off.
Hard work.
And that
the
area,
heat.
as I understand it, is more reds, right? At Lodi and up in the
you would-
foothills and stuff. I thought they grow mostly reds.
You would think so, but actually, it's
like Zinfandels and stuff.
It makes everything. We make everything. There's Chardonnay. There's a lot of Chardonnay. There's a lot of grapes up there. Lodi's known for Zinfandels, but there's about 7 different individual Albareños that are being made right now. There's a bunch of amazing white wines. So, it's a versatile area. Especially warm, you can kind of grow everything. I don't like Pinots out of warm areas really, but it's a versatile area. So I wanted to make a versatile wine list from there, right? So currently we're all from Lodi. And then as I grow, I want to maybe make it available to folks. A big part of SEIS SOLES is bringing wine to the masses that necessarily can't really take a wine weekend. No, not everybody can afford to go and take a weekend in Santa Barbara. It's amazing, but there's a bunch of people that I've been pouring for in like East LA and different areas into like Downey, Whittier, that are like, man, we're curious about this, but like, we can't go do that. I'm like, cool, I'm gonna bring it to you. So that's what I'm doing. And then the next stage.
So real quick, he said, I'm gonna bring it to you. That's important. What does that mean? Does that mean that you can go to families' homes and do like a wine tasting there or something?
That's what I've been doing. That's
Yes.
a big part of it is that
So
like,
people know, like, hey,
Yeah.
they can reach out to you, right?
Yeah, 100%. Like I live in San Gabriel now, but I'm in Orange County a lot and San Diego County. So in those whole areas, if you're interested in hosting a wine tasting, I can make it very simple. My basic like package is $20 per person. I show up, we pour, and everybody wants to take some wine home can take some wine home.
Nice.
And we have a good time. I can make it very relaxed. I can make it pretty formal and be versatile that way. So
And the one thing that's important about that is what I learned along the way. First, having restaurants and trying to taste the stuff because I knew nothing about it. And then my wife worked in a winery. We go back and do events and stuff. Through the years, we've learned more about this. It is a snobby, snooty kind of world. How do you hold it? How do you drink it? How do you sniff it? How do you pronounce it?
Hey, Paul,
Everybody's
us Latinos are not snobby like that.
So
We
what I'm
just
saying is,
pop
at
it
the
open
end of
and
the
enjoy
day,
it.
this is just wine, baby.
Yeah.
You know, you go to Europe and the kids are drinking wine and stuff. Spain and Portugal and Italy and France and stuff. This is an everyday thing. It doesn't have to have that kind of intimidation.
Well, but I think to your point, Paul, I love that Chris is saying, I want to bring this to the Latino community, to
Absolutely.
the Hispanic community, right?
Everybody.
Because let's be real. I never realized this until my son, who we live in Irvine, and he goes, and his friends are like, man, you guys have a barbecue every weekend. We have a barbecue once every 3 months.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
And you don't realize as a Latino that we do party a lot.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
have barbecues. We have gatherings. We're very family oriented.
Yeah.
And to think that wine wasn't for many years maybe incorporated in those gatherings until more recently, right? Because like you said, a lot of it is part of getting educated on the different levels, right? The sweeter, the drier, the bolder, right?
Sure.
A lot of it is learning, like you're saying. So you're doing a lot of great service in the community by educating the community about wines.
yeah, we're having fun because wine has been so like Eurocentric for so long that like, oh well, like what fine pate does it go with? I'm like, what Mexicano do you know that eats pate? Like
I don't eat pate,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But I like what you said earlier. Like you said, un taco de carne asada,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So that's the thing is like telling people, look, man, when you pair wines with foods, for the most part, you're playing with how like acids interact with tannins interact with like fat and salts. And so that exists in all of our food, and if Mexican cuisine can be celebrated worldwide as like amazing cuisine, then of course we can pair wine with it, right? Does that mean every wine goes with every food? No. Personally, I like spicy food, so it doesn't lend itself always to wine. But like, if we just take it back to a basic level, things that we eat, can I find a wine that goes well with your caldito de albóndiga? 100%.
Man,
but
that sounds good, caldito
yeah,
de
yeah.
albóndiga.
But people, there's a part of the industry that makes you think like, well, that's for common people, and I think that's cool for people. If you want to be exclusive, I want to be inclusive,
course.
and I want to be inclusive of our experiences and our cuisine. And so we do have fun. We done something where we had like our red blend, and we had about a bunch of different people to make different mole tacos to see
Ooh.
whose best mole recipe with
Tacos
this
de
red.
mole with
Yeah.
a nice bottle of wine.
Yeah, man. And so people are probably listening to this and like, and we get it. But has it been implemented like in general? No. I'm having a lot of trouble going to Mexican restaurants, even here in Southern California, where they're like, well, we don't pour wine, our people don't drink wine. I'm like, that might be true, but we're not incapable of it. So are you willing to put in some work? And I'll put in work, and I'm having some trouble there.
Well, if you don't present it, if you don't provide the education, then people are never. I know that I personally, years ago, I think years ago, I worked in the wine industry part-time in the summer as a side job, and I didn't know anything about wine, which was good because if you work in it, you can't be drinking it.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be out there selling it, right?
Yeah.
And I had to learn a lot about it, and it took me a long time. But I started off with I remember drinking Gewürztraminer, which was
Gewürztraminer.
Yes.
Gewürztraminer,
yeah, it's a
right.
German wine, right? And it was very sweet. So I was like, wow, this is delicious.
Most people start with the sweeter wines,
Yeah.
and then they get to the drier wines or
Exactly.
the heavier wines, the red wines and stuff.
Exactly. And so that's kind of where I learned it, right? And so if I don't ever open that bottle, maybe I never learn it, and then I never bring it home. And then now my sister loves it. My wife loves wine. Our family loves having wine constantly around the family. But it goes from one person to another, right?
It has. Now I have people in my family. 'Cause I was the first one to kind of bring it. I loved making wine before. I loved enjoying it, like drinking it. But like for the most part, now people are buying me some wines in the family. They're sharing experiences. They're going wine tasting without me, which I hate actually. Family, but
Shout out to the family.
yeah, that's right. But I mean, what you're hitting on is that like I think Latinos are very much an open book when it comes to wines, and I'm having a lot of fun working with people that have no preconceived notions. They're just like, oh well, you seem like you're gonna be cool with me asking questions, so let's have fun with it.
That's a great point.
They don't have
Wow.
history that have told them this is what wine has to be or enjoyed this way. They're like, I don't know, man. You show me. You
Well,
tell
to
me.
Paul's point, they're not like the snobby wine, right?
100%.
drinker that's
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
be like, well, I
Just
don't
enjoy
drink.
it. Just try. People are coming into the wineries and they're like, I don't know what to call it or doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Do you like it? I don't know how to drink it. I don't know how to hold it. Hey, we can show you some of this stuff, but just try it,
100%.
and you'll find what you like. And in this wide world of wine, there's something for everybody.
Well,
It's
I
an
love that.
everyday thing.
I personally love this bottle because it says Sol, Tierra,
Yeah.
Sol y Tierra.
Yeah. So the most important thing in winemaking is sol y tierra, right?
Where
Sun
did
and
you come
soil.
up with that name for this bottle?
It just hit me. I was just
Really?
sitting there thinking about stuff.
That
And
is such a cool name.
yeah, thank you, man. I enjoy this part of it. I definitely had some professional help. A friend of mine that helped me turn this into labels, someone that I knew already. And so, but these are ideas I kick out, and I think I have an eye and an ear for things. I'm not necessarily a super creative person, but I have an eye for what I like, and I think other people are gonna like. So Sol Tierra, that label is beautiful. I couldn't produce it to save my life, but I knew kind of how to get it there and who to go find it to do it, right? I know wine. Everything else is I've been teaming up with people.
So how do they go find your wines? Are they available in stock, in stores, in
Hey,
restaurants?
Paul,
anything?
Paul,
Yeah.
I'm the one doing the interview.
I want to go get some here.
Paul,
What are you
Paul,
talking?
Paul wants to take the wine. That's
Hey,
what
Paul,
we want
the
to
wine.
I'm leaving these with you, Paul. Don't worry.
No, not this one. Okay, this is for Ruben Franco,
four
our
of the
president.
five.
All right,
This
there you
is-
go.
Hey, I got a whole other set for you.
I
Don't
love
worry.
it. I love it.
We got 2 sets of these. Don't worry. The most immediate area, I think it's important just to let know people where we're at. So I have www.seisoles.com, the
Okay.
number 6.
And spell that for everybody.
6 SOLES.com.
They can go buy wine there.
Yeah, the number 6 SOLES.com.
So they order it, then you ship it out to
Yeah,
them?
that's the most immediate way right now. I have events. Follow me on 6 Soles Vino, 6 SOLESVINO
And is that
on
spelled
Instagram.
in English or in Spanish? 6. You're saying because it's
The number 6.
so it's SIX or is it SEIS?
It's the number 6.
No, it's the number 6.
Numbers.
Yes.
Okay. I was
Yep.
missing that. Number 6, Soles. Soles. How do I say it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Vino on my Instagram.
Soles is sons, just
Yeah.
so you know, Paul.
Yeah, and sorry, I mean, this is how it is when you're using like different languages. It's always gonna be kind of cumbersome, but the idea is that, and then if you want to make a more immediate impact, High Times in Costa Mesa
Great
has my
place.
Cabernet. They gave me the first placement, and I think if it goes well, they have a couple ideas of others. And it's hard. It's such a sea of beautiful wines there, and I'm tucked in the back in the Cabernet section. That if nobody stumbles upon me, they may find that like I'm not a brand worth having there, right?
Yes.
Even though because they're a business, and so if anybody can go
Thousands
there,
of wines there. It's an
Yeah.
incredible place.
Yeah.
Multi layers of wine and booze and everything. It's
oh yeah, it's a wine.
Interesting how Paul knows about that.
Oh,
I
man.
know all about that stuff.
I saw him as a customer of the month. 10
Paul
months running.
Roberts,
Yeah,
we need you. Paul Roberts, we need you to go to that
Yeah.
Costa Mesa place
I
and
was
buy
just,
it.
I was just there a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Bought something.
And if you have other places that you enjoy having wine, let them know that you're interested in this brand. I'm growing, and then the growth can be great and hard sometimes because like I'm a newer brand, and some people are very enthusiastic. Damn, you're Latino, you're putting in work, and
Yes.
you have a great product. Some people are like, well, hey man, you're a brand that nobody knows, and I can't really take a chance. I got to sell wine. So let people know that you like it, that you want to try it. But Seis Soles, I'm available online, and I ship to you. And if I'm in the area, I drop it off to your home myself.
Yes, and he has, by the way, at my home. I mean, he literally comes out, and I'll buy a case of wine because we're having a family party or something or a fundraiser. And so that is, I mean, you talk about VIP service, right?
Yeah, and
I
I'll
mean,
deliver even one bottle, man. Whatever it is.
No,
Yeah,
they can't
everything.
do one bottle. They got to
Gotta
do
do
at
a
least,
case. Yeah, we
you
gotta do
know,
a case.
let's say maybe half a case or something. 6
Well,
bottles.
once again, I mean, I know we're playing, but like the idea is that
I know.
when I want to make it available to people that like me,
Yes.
a case at a time is out of our budget for a lot
I
of
know,
us.
I know,
And
I know,
So yeah, you're right. If you can,
But
buy-
let's say 3 bottles.
All
or
right,
something,
for
right?
sure, for sure, for
At
sure.
least 3
Yeah.
bottles. Make it worth your time. Your the gas is expensive. Come
sure,
on, folks.
make that consideration.
Yes, yes.
But if you buy one, I'll take it.
He's not, but if you buy one, I'll take it. Yes, definitely reach out, okay? Because Chris is one of our local businesses. I don't like to say small businesses because you're growing. I've seen the brand out there in our events, at our fundraisers. We have to support those that are supporting us, especially when they're supporting the community and our fundraisers. So definitely go to, again, his Instagram is Seis Soles on Instagram,
SEIS
right?
Soles Vino, yeah.
SEIS
And are we
Soles
running
Vino.
low on time?
Yes.
I just want to let people know that like I'm working on opening up a tasting room. There's a possibility in Santa Ana. I've talked to planning. I've talked
wine
to
tasting room.
Yeah,
How
I've
cool
talked to
would that be?
ABC.
Yeah.
I can't say where because it's already a private business and I'm gonna try to sublease. But if it works out, I'm gonna have an amazing space in Santa Ana where people in Northern Orange County can come and find their own wine brand. SEIS Soles, Northern Orange County's wine brand.
I
you know?
won't say the name, but is this the place we had an event there recently?
Yeah, and I'm at
Okay.
the end of like trying to like do the final pitch and then but the regulatory agencies that are involved, they're on board. So I mean that's a big deal.
And if you have a business and you're listening and you would like this brand and this product at your restaurant or at your business or your bar or whatever it may be, please reach out to Chris or reach out to us or leave a comment here on our post, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on Facebook, because again, every bit counts, guys. You know, founded by a Hispanic, Latino, comes from those roots. We have to support these brands in our community. I know we're short on time here, right, Paul?
Yes.
It's been fun. Normally, Paul's giving me the stinky eye, but not today.
Not today.
He's
I
being
got-
very friendly with Chris here. You know,
I want to be in his good graces, so when he leaves a bottle behind her,
when he leaves
Oh,
the
man, hey,
bottle-
how much for 30 more minutes? I got some wine in the car.
Hey, Paul's like, don't push your luck.
don't push your luck.
Don't push your luck. Well, listen, Chris, thank you for coming out. Wine, you see, guys, wine always makes anything and everything fun.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
right, so we want
It
to
made me more of an interesting person. So.
And you know what? Shout out to your parents
Yep.
for all that
Thank you,
they
100%.
implemented in you, hard work. I mean, I see you out there, and it goes a lot to our roots, right? Who our parents are. Viva Michoacán.
Yeah.
You know, to your parents, if they watch this show, gracias por su hijo ser tan trabajador acá.
My daughter's from Michoacán.
That's right. That's right.
Daughter's adopted from Michoacán.
That's
yeah.
right. He's got
Awesome, man.
family member from Michoacán. over
3
there.
Michoacanos in here, man.
That's right.
Yeah.
3 Michoacanos are here. Not from Michigan, Michoacán.
But I am from Michigan too.
That is Paul is from Michigan. But listen, folks, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, go support SEIS Soles. Chris Rivera, who is the owner, founder, winemaker of SEIS Soles. Please go to his Instagram, go to his Facebook. We'll tag him here. Chris, thank you so much for being here. It's been a lot of fun, brother. And we're ready to have some fun with this wine, guys. So we got to go. Take it away, Paul.
Well, there you have it. One more reason to tune in to the party we call Meet Our Community. Each and every week, we bring in the most interesting members of the Hispanic business community here in Orange County to sample, to taste, to hear about what they're doing and how we can get involved. Powered by the Orange County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio, streaming live from our studios here at the University of California Irvine's Beale Wine Innovation Center.